I was dead. At least that is what every machine in that hospital room was saying about me. The monitors showed nothing. The doctors had given up. My mother was crying in the corner, and somewhere a man with a pen was about to sign a paper that would end my life forever. But I was still there, trapped somewhere between this world and the next, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to scream, and yet I heard everything. I felt everything. I was fighting a battle no one could see, in a place no one could reach. This is my story, the story of how I came back from the edge of death, the story of the tear that saved my life, the story of the whisper that I still cannot explain. If you stay with me until the end, you will understand something that changed the way I see life, death, faith, and miracles. You will learn what it feels like to be conscious while the world believes you are gone. You will discover why one doctor refused to give up on me, even when science told him there was no hope. And you will hear the words that pulled me back from the darkness, words that no living person in that room ever spoke. This is not just a story about survival. This is a story about the invisible forces that watch over us, the moments when heaven reaches down and refuses to let go. My name is Rosy. I was 17 years old when this happened, just a regular girl living in a small town where everyone knew everyone. I was not rich. I was not famous. I was not special in any way that the world would notice. But I had one thing that people always remembered about me: my smile. No matter how hard life got, I always found a reason to smile. My grandmother used to say that my smile could light up a room even during a power cut. She said I was born with sunshine in my soul. Maybe she was right. Or maybe I just learned early that crying does not fix anything, so you might as well choose to be happy. I grew up in a modest home with my parents and my younger brother. My father worked at a factory, and my mother stayed home to take care of us. We did not have much, but we had love, we had laughter, we had each other, and that was enough for me. I never asked for expensive clothes or fancy phones. I found joy in simple things: a good song, a warm cup of tea, the sound of rain on the roof, the feeling of singing so loud that your heart feels like it might burst. Singing, that was my escape. That was my passion. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved to sing. I would sing in the shower. I would sing while doing homework. I would sing while walking to school. My mother used to joke that I came out of the womb humming a melody. When I was 12, I joined the school choir. It was the best decision I ever made. Suddenly, I was surrounded by people who loved music as much as I did. People who understood that a song is not just words and notes. It is a piece of your soul that you give to the world. By the time I was 17, I had become one of the lead singers in our choir group. We practiced every day after school. We performed at local events, religious gatherings, and school functions. Music was not just a hobby for me. It was my identity. It was my purpose. It was the one thing that made me feel truly alive. Little did I know that soon I would have to fight for that life, and music would be the thread that pulled me back. It was the rainy season, the kind of rain that does not stop for days, the kind that turns streets into rivers and makes the whole world feel heavy and gray. But I did not mind the rain. In fact, I loved it. There is something magical about rain, the way it washes everything clean, the way it makes the world smell fresh and new, the way it sounds like 1,000 tiny drums playing a symphony just for you. That week, our choir group had entered a regional competition. It was the biggest event we had ever participated in. Weeks of practice, hours of rehearsal, sleepless nights perfecting every note, every harmony, every breath. And when the day of the competition finally arrived, we gave everything we had. I still remember standing on that stage, looking out at the audience, feeling the music flow through me like electricity. I closed my eyes and let the song carry me away. And when we finished, the applause was deafening. We won first place. The trophy was heavy and golden, and when they placed it in my hands, I felt like I was holding a piece of my dreams. My friends were screaming. My teacher was crying. My parents, who had driven 2 hours to watch me perform, were cheering from the front row. It was the happiest moment of my life. I had no idea that in just a few hours, everything would change. After the competition, my friend Anita offered to drive me home. She had just gotten her license a few months ago, and she was proud of her little blue car. It was old and a bit rusty, but it ran well enough. I said goodbye to my parents, who were taking my brother home in a separate vehicle. I hugged them tightly, still buzzing with excitement. "I will see you at home," I told my mother. "We will celebrate tonight." She kissed my forehead and smiled. "I am so proud of you, my sunshine." Those were the last words I heard from her before everything went dark. The rain had gotten worse, much worse. What started as a gentle drizzle had turned into a violent storm. The roads were flooded and visibility was almost zero. Anita was driving carefully, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I was sitting in the passenger seat, watching the raindrops race down the window. We were stuck in traffic. Cars were barely moving. The radio was playing some old song that I did not recognize. "This is taking forever," Anita muttered. "I hope the road is not blocked ahead." "It is fine," I said, trying to stay positive. "We will get through, just take your time." But the universe had other plans. I do not remember exactly what happened next. They told me later that a flash flood came out of nowhere. A wall of water rushing down from the hills, carrying mud and debris. It hit our lane of traffic like a freight train. Cars were swept aside like toys. People were screaming. And Anita's little blue car, so small and fragile, was pushed off the road and into a ditch. I remember the sound of glass breaking. I remember the cold water rushing in. I remember Anita screaming my name. And then nothing, just darkness. Deep, endless, suffocating darkness. When I woke up, I was not in my body. At least that is what it felt like. I was floating somewhere. A place with no walls, no floor, no ceiling, just emptiness and silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it is pressing down on your chest. I tried to move, but I could not feel my arms or legs. I tried to speak, but no words came out. I tried to scream, but there was no sound. Where am I? I thought, what is happening to me? I had no answers, only fear, cold, paralyzing fear. Time did not exist in that place. I do not know if hours passed or days. It all felt the same, just floating, just waiting, just existing in a void of nothingness. Sometimes I would hear distant sounds, muffled voices, beeping machines, footsteps, but they were so far away, like echoes from another world. I would try to reach for them, try to grab onto something, anything, but they always slipped away. And then the thoughts started. What if I am dead? What if this is it? What if I am stuck here forever? The fear turned into despair. The despair turned into hopelessness. I felt myself sinking deeper and deeper into the darkness, like falling into a bottomless pit. And the worst part was that I could not even cry. I could not even scream. I was just there. Alone, forgotten, lost. Meanwhile, in the world I had left behind, my body was lying in a hospital bed. The doctors had found me unconscious, pulled from the wreckage of Anita's car. Anita had survived with minor injuries, but I was not so lucky. Something had happened to my brain, something the doctors could not explain. I was breathing, but I was not responding. My eyes were closed. My body was still. And every test they ran came back with the same devastating result. No brain activity. They tried everything. Medications, therapies, stimulation. They poked and prodded and tested and waited, but nothing worked. The machines that monitored my brain showed only flat lines. Empty, silent, dead. My parents were devastated. They had rushed to the hospital as soon as they heard the news. My mother collapsed when she saw me lying there, connected to tubes and wires. My father, a man who never cried, wept like a child. They held my hands. They talked to me. They prayed over me. They begged God to bring me back. But days passed, and I did not wake up. In the void, I was losing hope. The darkness was becoming familiar. The silence was becoming normal. I started to forget what light looked like, what sound felt like, what it meant to be alive. I was giving up. Slowly, quietly, I was letting go. And then I heard it. A whisper, so soft that I almost missed it. But it was there, a voice in the darkness. Someone still believes in you. I froze, or at least I would have frozen if I had a body to freeze. The words hung in the air like a lifeline. I reached for them desperately. Who is there? I thought. Who are you? But there was no answer, just the echo of those words. Someone still believes in you. And something inside me stirred. A tiny spark. A flicker of hope. Maybe I was not forgotten. Maybe someone was still fighting for me. Maybe there was still a chance. Back in the hospital, the situation was grim. A full week had passed since the accident. 7 days of nothing. 7 days of flat lines and silent monitors and fading hope. The hospital had protocols for situations like this. When there is no brain activity for an extended period, when every test shows no signs of recovery, they have to make difficult decisions. They have to consider the possibility that the patient is gone and will never come back. Dr. Aaron was the neurologist assigned to my case. He was a quiet man in his late 40s with kind eyes and gentle hands. He had seen many patients in his career. He had witnessed miracles and tragedies. He had learned to balance hope with reality. But something about my case troubled him. Maybe it was my age. Maybe it was the way my mother looked at me with such desperate faith. Or maybe it was something he could not explain. Something that whispered to him to wait just a little longer. But the hospital demanded a decision. The paperwork was ready. The forms were filled out. All that was needed was his signature. The signature that would officially declare that my brain had shut down permanently. The signature that would lead to my life support being disconnected. The signature that would end my story. Dr. Aaron stood beside my bed, holding the clipboard. My mother was sitting in the corner, her eyes red and swollen from days of crying. She had not slept. She had barely eaten. She had aged 10 years in 7 days, but she refused to leave my side. She refused to give up on her sunshine. The doctor looked at the monitors one last time, flat, empty, hopeless. He had seen this too many times. He knew what it meant. The brain was gone. The person was gone. All that remained was a body kept alive by machines. It was cruel to prolong the inevitable. It was merciful to let go. He reached for his pen. Before we go any further, if you believe in Jesus, subscribe to my channel because we provide daily Jesus stories that change people's lives. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Your subscription helps spread these messages of hope and faith to people all around the world. Now let me tell you what happened next. As Dr. Aaron was about to sign the paper, something caught his eye. A glimmer, a shimmer, a tiny, almost invisible sparkle at the corner of my eyelash. He paused, he leaned closer, and he saw it. A tear. A single tear, forming slowly at the corner of my eye, sliding gently down my cheek. Now you might think that tears are normal. Patients cry all the time, even unconscious ones. But this was different. This was not a reflex. This was not caused by dryness or irritation. This was a tear formed from emotion, from feeling, from something deep inside that was still alive, still fighting, still there. Dr. Aaron's hand froze midair. He stared at that tear like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because in that moment it was. That tiny drop of water was proof. Proof that somewhere inside this silent body there was still a soul, still a person, still a girl who wanted to live. "Wait," he whispered. The word hung in the sterile hospital air like a prayer. My mother looked up, hope flickering in her exhausted eyes. "What is it? What happened?" Dr. Aaron did not answer. He was too busy processing what he had just seen. Every scientific instinct told him it was nothing. A random physiological response. A meaningless coincidence. But something deeper, something beyond science and logic told him otherwise. This tear meant something. This tear was a message. He put down the clipboard. "I am not signing this," he said firmly. "Not yet." The nurses looked at him in surprise. The hospital administrators would not be happy. The protocol was clear, but Dr. Aaron did not care. He had spent his entire career trusting machines and data and test results. But in this moment, he was trusting something else. Something he could not measure or quantify. Something that felt like faith. "Restart the warming therapy," he ordered. "Adjust the oxygen levels. And someone get me the contact information for her choir group. I want the last recording they sent her." The medical team sprang into action. They did not understand why, but they trusted Dr. Aaron. He had earned that trust over years of dedication and compassion. If he believed there was hope, then maybe, just maybe, there was. An hour later, they had the recording. A song that my choir group had sent me after the competition. A song I loved to practice. A song that held memories of laughter and joy and friendship. They played it softly near my ear, the gentle melody filling the cold hospital room. In the void, I heard it. At first, it was just a distant hum, a vibration in the darkness, but slowly it grew louder, clearer, And I recognized it, that song, my song, the song I had practiced 1,000 times, the song that made me feel alive. I do not know how to describe what happened next. It was like a rope had been thrown into the darkness, a rope made of music and memory and love, and I grabbed onto it with everything I had. Every ounce of strength I did not know I still possessed, every spark of hope I thought had died. The darkness began to crack. Light seeped through, just a sliver at first, then more and more. The void that had held me prisoner for so long was breaking apart, and I was fighting harder than I had ever fought for anything, fighting to come back, fighting to live. Back in the hospital, something miraculous was happening. My fingers twitched. It was small, almost imperceptible, but the nurse who was holding my hand felt it. She gasped and looked at Dr. Aaron. "Doctor," she breathed. She moved. Dr. Aaron rushed over. He watched my hand with intense focus. And then another twitch. This time unmistakable, this time real. The monitors that had shown nothing for 7 days suddenly flickered to life. A tiny blip, then another, then a rhythm, a pattern, brain activity, weak but present, growing stronger with each passing second. "She is coming back," Dr. Aaron said, his voice filled with wonder. "She is actually coming back." My mother collapsed to her knees, sobbing with joy. The prayers she had whispered for 7 days straight were being answered. Her sunshine was returning. In the void, I felt myself being pulled upward. The music was guiding me. The light was calling me. And that whisper, that beautiful, mysterious whisper, was still with me. "Someone still believes in you. Keep fighting. Do not give up." I did not give up. I could not give up. Not when someone still believed. Not when there was still a chance. The journey back was not easy. It was like swimming through thick mud. Every inch was a struggle. Every moment was exhausting. The darkness did not want to let me go. It grabbed at me, pulled at me, tried to drag me back into the void. But I kept fighting. I kept reaching for the light. I kept listening to the music. I kept holding on to those words. And then, suddenly, I broke through. I opened my eyes. The world rushed back to me in a flood of sensations. Bright lights, white walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic, and faces everywhere. My mother crying and laughing at the same time. Dr. Aaron staring at me like I was a miracle. Nurses and doctors gathered around, witnessing the impossible. I was alive. I was back. I was home. The first few hours were a blur. They ran tests, checked my vitals, asked me questions. My voice was weak and my body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. But I was there. I was present. I was conscious. Against all odds, against all medical logic, I had returned from a place where no one was supposed to return from. When the initial chaos settled down, when the doctors had finished their examinations and the nurses had adjusted my medications, I was finally alone with my mother. She sat beside my bed, holding my hand like she was afraid to ever let go again. "My baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My precious baby, you came back to me." I smiled weakly. It hurt to move, but I wanted her to see my smile. I wanted her to know that her sunshine was still here. "Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "there is something I need to ask." "Anything, my love. What is it?" I hesitated, trying to find the right words for an experience I did not fully understand myself. "When I was in that place," I began slowly, "that dark place where I was trapped, I heard a voice. Someone was whispering to me. They kept saying, 'Someone still believes in you,' over and over again. Every time I wanted to give up, I heard those words, and they kept me fighting." My mother's eyes widened. She looked at Dr. Aaron, who had quietly entered the room. "Doctor," she said, "did anyone whisper to her? Did anyone speak near her bed?" Dr. Aaron shook his head slowly. "No, we had strict protocols. No one spoke near her ear. We did not want any disturbances. The only thing we played was the music recording." I felt a chill run down my spine, but not the cold kind. The kind that comes when you realize something bigger than yourself is at work. "Then who whispered to me?" I asked. Because I heard it clearly as I am hearing you right now. Someone was there with me in the darkness. Someone was telling me to keep fighting. Someone believed in me when I had stopped believing in myself. The room fell silent. My mother closed her eyes and clasped her hands together. I knew she was praying. I knew she was thanking God for bringing me back. And in that moment, I started to understand. Maybe the whisper was not from anyone in that hospital room. Maybe it was from somewhere else entirely. Somewhere beyond the reach of machines and medicine. Somewhere beyond the understanding of doctors and scientists. Maybe it was a whisper from heaven itself. A message from God, or an angel, or some divine force that refused to let me slip away. I will never know for certain who spoke to me in that void, but I know what they said, and I know that those words saved my life. Someone still believes in you. Those 5 words became my anchor, my light, my reason to keep fighting when everything inside me wanted to surrender. And when I finally found the strength to break through the darkness, I carried those words with me like a treasure. The days that followed were filled with recovery. It was not easy. My body had been still for so long that I had to relearn simple things: walking, eating, speaking without getting tired. The physical therapy was painful, but I welcomed the pain. Pain meant I was alive. Pain meant I had a body to heal. Pain meant I had a second chance. My father visited every day after work. He would sit beside my bed and read to me from old storybooks, the same ones he used to read when I was a little girl. My brother drew pictures for me and taped them to the hospital walls. My choir friends came to visit, bringing flowers and balloons and the golden trophy we had won together. They cried when they saw me. They laughed when I cracked jokes. They hugged me like they never wanted to let go. Anita came too. She was consumed with guilt over the accident. She kept apologizing, saying it was her fault, saying she should have driven differently, saying she should have protected me. But I took her hand and looked her in the eyes. "Anita," I said firmly, "none of this was your fault, the storm, the flood, the accident. Those were things beyond your control. You did not cause this, and you know what? I am grateful. Because going through this experience taught me something I never would have learned otherwise. It taught me about faith, about hope, about the invisible forces that watch over us. So please stop blaming yourself. I forgive you. I need you to forgive yourself too." She cried. We both cried. And then we hugged, and in that embrace, I felt the last remnants of the darkness leave my soul. I was truly free. Dr. Aaron became more than just my doctor. He became a friend, a mentor, a guardian angel in human form. He visited me every day, not because he had to, but because he cared. We talked about medicine, about life, about faith, about miracles. I asked him once why he did not sign that paper, why he decided to give me another chance when every piece of evidence told him I was gone. He thought for a long moment before answering. "I have been a neurologist for over 20 years, he said. "I have seen thousands of patients. I have witnessed recoveries that defied explanation and losses that broke my heart. But your case was different. When I saw that tear rolling down your cheek, something inside me refused to give up. It was not logic. It was not science. It was something else. Something I cannot explain. Call it intuition. Call it instinct. Call it the voice of God. Whatever it was, it told me to wait, to believe, to have faith." He paused, his eyes distant with memory. "You know, Rosy, in medical school, they teach us to trust data, to rely on evidence, to make decisions based on facts and statistics. And that training has served me well for most of my career. But there are moments when facts and statistics are not enough. There are moments when you have to trust something deeper, something that cannot be measured by machines or calculated by formulas. And in your case, that something saved your life." I nodded slowly, understanding exactly what he meant. "Do you believe in miracles, Dr. Aaron?" He smiled softly. "I did not used to. I was a man of science. Miracles seemed like fairy tales for people who could not accept reality. But after what happened with you, I am not so sure anymore. Maybe miracles are not as rare as we think. Maybe they happen all around us, and we are just too busy looking at data to notice. Maybe faith and science are not enemies. Maybe they are partners, working together in ways we are only beginning to understand." His words stayed with me long after he left that day. They planted a seed in my heart, a seed of wonder, a seed of possibility, a seed that would grow into a purpose I never expected. As the weeks passed, I grew stronger. I was eventually discharged from the hospital, returning home to a welcome celebration that filled my heart to overflowing. My mother had decorated the house with flowers and balloons. My neighbors had prepared a feast. My choir friends performed the song that had brought me back from the void. I stood there, surrounded by love, and I wept with gratitude. But my recovery was not just physical. Something had changed inside me, something fundamental. The Rosy who went into that dark void was not the same Rosy who came back. The old Rosy took life for granted. The old Rosy worried about small things. The old Rosy forgot to appreciate the miracle of being alive. But the new Rosy understood. The new Rosy knew that every breath is a gift. Every sunrise is a blessing. Every moment is precious beyond measure. I started keeping a journal. Every night before bed, I would write down 3 things I was grateful for. Some nights the list was simple: a delicious meal, a phone call with a friend, a beautiful sunset. Other nights the list was profound: the ability to walk, the sound of my mother's laughter, the fact that I was still here, still breathing, still living. I also started sharing my story. At first, it was just with close friends and family. But word spread. People heard about the girl who came back from the dead, the girl who was saved by a tear, the girl who heard a whisper no one could explain, and they wanted to hear more. I was invited to speak at our church. I was terrified. Public speaking had never been my strength. Singing, yes, but talking, that was different. But something told me I needed to share my experience. Something told me that my story was not just for me. It was for everyone who had ever lost hope, everyone who had ever felt alone in the darkness, everyone who had ever wondered if miracles were real. So I stood up there in front of hundreds of people and I told them everything. The accident, the void, the darkness, the whisper, the tear, the music, the miraculous return. I spoke from my heart without notes, without preparation. And when I finished, the room was silent. Then slowly people started to stand, one by one, row by row, until everyone was on their feet, tears streaming down their faces, hands raised in gratitude and praise. They were not applauding for me. They were applauding for the miracle, for the God who refused to let go, for the faith that conquered death. After the service, a woman approached me. She was elderly, with white hair and gentle eyes. She took my hands in hers and looked at me with an intensity I will never forget. "My granddaughter is in the hospital," she said, her voice trembling. "She has been in a coma for 3 days. The doctors say there is no hope, but after hearing your story, I believe again. I will go back to that hospital. I will hold her hand, and I will whisper to her. I will tell her that someone still believes in her." I hugged her tightly, both of us crying. "Yes," I said. "Tell her, never stop telling her, because sometimes that whisper is the only thing that reaches through the darkness." I do not know what happened to her granddaughter. I never saw that woman again. But I like to believe that somewhere out there, another miracle happened. Another soul heard the whisper. Another life was saved by faith. In the months that followed, I continued to share my story. I spoke at schools, hospitals, churches, and community centers. I met countless people who were going through their own dark voids. Cancer patients who had been given months to live. Parents who had lost children. Young people who were battling depression and despair. To each of them, I offered the same message. Do not give up, even when the darkness seems endless, even when hope seems impossible, even when every piece of evidence tells you there is no way out. Keep fighting, keep believing, because somewhere someone is whispering for you. Somewhere someone still believes in you, and that faith can move mountains. That faith can conquer death. That faith can bring you back from places you never thought you could return from. I also returned to singing. It took time. My lungs were weak and my voice was shaky. But slowly, note by note, song by song, I rebuilt my gift. When I sang now, it was different. Every word carried weight. Every melody held meaning. I was not just performing anymore. I was testifying. I was praising. I was thanking God for every breath that allowed me to make music. My choir group welcomed me back with open arms. We performed again at the same regional competition where we had won first place. This time I chose the song. It was a hymn about grace, about second chances, about the love that never lets go. When I sang the final note, I could feel the presence of something holy in that auditorium, and I knew, without a doubt, that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Now, years have passed since that rainy night. I am no longer a 17-year-old girl. I have grown. I have changed. I have built a life filled with purpose and meaning. But I never forgot those days in the void. I never forgot the darkness or the whisper or the tear. I never forgot Dr. Aaron, whose faith gave me a second chance. I never forgot the song that pulled me back from the brink. And I never forgot the lesson. Miracles are real. They happen every day in ways big and small. Sometimes they come in the form of unexplainable recoveries. Sometimes they come in the form of a doctor who refuses to give up. Sometimes they come in the form of a tear that speaks louder than any machine. And sometimes they come in the form of a whisper. A still, small voice that reaches through the darkest void and tells you that you are not alone. That someone still believes in you, that there is still hope. If you are going through your own dark void right now, I want you to hear me. I know it feels endless. I know it feels hopeless. I know you are tired and scared and ready to give up. But please hold on just a little longer. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Because your miracle might be just around the corner. Your whisper might be on its way. And when it comes, when that light breaks through the darkness, you will understand why you needed to survive. You will discover a purpose you never knew you had. You will become a beacon of hope for others who are lost in their own voids. That is what happened to me. That is why I share my story, not for fame or attention, but because I know there is someone out there who needs to hear it. Someone who is about to give up. Someone who has lost all hope. Someone who is trapped in darkness and cannot find the way out. This story is for you. These words are for you. And the message I carry from that void is for you. Someone still believes in you. Even if you cannot see them, even if you cannot hear them, even if you feel completely alone. Believe me when I tell you that there are forces in this universe that are fighting for you. There is love that transcends death. There is faith that conquers despair. There is a God who sees your tears and counts your struggles and knows your name. I was dead. The machines said so. The doctors said so. Every piece of evidence confirmed it. But one tear, one whisper, one act of faith changed everything. And now I am here, alive and well, sharing this story with you. If that is not a miracle, I do not know what is. I want to tell you about something that happened recently. It confirmed everything I believe about the interconnectedness of faith and life. I was invited to speak at a medical conference. Yes, me. The girl who was once a patient is now invited to teach doctors. They wanted to hear about my experience from the inside. They wanted to understand what it feels like to be trapped in that state between life and death. They wanted to know if there was anything the medical community could learn from cases like mine. I was nervous. Speaking to regular people was one thing. Speaking to scientists and doctors was something else entirely. These were people who dealt in facts and data, not faith and miracles. Would they even believe me? Would they dismiss my story as fantasy or delusion? But when I stood at that podium and looked out at all those white coats and serious faces, I felt a strange peace. I was not there to convince them of anything. I was there to share my truth, and whatever they did with that truth was up to them. I told them everything: the void, the darkness, the whisper, the tear, the music, the return. I told them about the moment I heard those words in the emptiness. I told them about the feeling of breaking through and seeing light again. I told them about the journey of recovery and the purpose I found through my suffering. When I finished, there was silence. A long, heavy silence that made me want to disappear. But then, something unexpected happened. Dr. Aaron stood up. He was in the audience. I had not known he would be there. He had retired from the hospital a few years ago, but he still attended medical conferences to stay updated. He walked up to the microphone, his hair now completely gray, his face lined with age but still kind. "I was the doctor who almost signed her death certificate," he said. His voice was strong and clear. "I have been a man of science my whole life. I trusted data over intuition. I believed in evidence over faith. But this case changed me. What Rosy described as a whisper I experienced as a feeling, a gut instinct, something beyond logic that told me not to give up on her. And I listened. For the first time in my career, I listened to something other than the machines." He paused, looking around at his colleagues. "I am not saying we should abandon science. Science is essential. It saves lives every day. But I am saying that there are dimensions to healing that we do not fully understand. There are forces at work that our instruments cannot measure. Call it the soul, call it consciousness, call it God. Whatever you call it, it exists, and it deserves our respect. The room erupted in applause. Not everyone was convinced, of course. Some doctors remained skeptical. Some thought we were just lucky, that my recovery was a fluke of biology rather than a divine intervention. And that is okay. Everyone is entitled to their own interpretation. But for me, there is no doubt. What happened to me was a miracle. Not because it was inexplicable, though it was. Not because it was rare, though it was. But because it revealed something that I had always sensed but never truly known. We are not alone. In our darkest moments, in our deepest voids, in the silence where all hope seems lost, we are not alone. There is a presence that watches over us, a love that refuses to let go, a voice that whispers through the darkness, reminding us of our worth, our value, our reason to keep fighting. I do not know what you believe. I do not know what religion you practice or what philosophy you follow. But I know this: the universe is not cold and random. It is warm and purposeful. There is meaning in our suffering. There is hope in our despair. And there is always, always, always someone who still believes in you. I carry that truth with me every day. It shapes how I live, how I love, how I treat others. When I see someone struggling, I try to be that whisper for them. I try to be the voice that says, "Do not give up. I believe in you. You matter." Because that is what saved me. Not the machines, not the medications, not the medical protocols. It was faith. It was belief. It was the simple, profound, earth-shattering truth that someone cared enough to give me one more chance. And now, I spend my life giving others that same chance. Through my words, my songs, my stories. Through the hugs I give and the prayers I pray and the hope I share. I am living proof that miracles are real. And I want everyone who hears my story to know that their miracle is possible too. There is one more thing I need to share with you before I close this story. It is about the whisper itself. For years, I wondered about it. Who spoke to me in that void? Was it God? An angel? A deceased relative? My own subconscious fighting to survive? I may never know for certain, and I have made peace with that mystery. But recently, I found a clue. Or maybe it found me. I was going through old boxes in my mother's attic, looking for photographs for a family album. In one of the boxes, I found a stack of letters. They were written by my grandmother, who passed away when I was very young. I barely remembered her, just fragments. Her smile, her laugh, the way she called me her sunshine. I started reading the letters. They were addressed to my mother, written during a time when my grandmother was very sick. She knew she did not have long to live. And in one letter, dated just a few days before her death, she wrote something that made my heart stop. I may not be there to see my granddaughter grow up, but I promise you, my dear daughter, that even when I am gone, I will never stop watching over her. I will whisper to her in her darkest moments. I will remind her that someone still believes in her. Death cannot stop a grandmother's love. I read those words over and over, tears streaming down my face. My grandmother who died before I was old enough to know her. She had promised to whisper to me, and somehow, someway, she kept that promise. I called my mother immediately and read her the letter. She cried too. We cried together over the phone, separated by miles but united by the miracle of that message. She kept her promise, my mother said through her tears. Your grandmother kept her promise. I believe that now. I believe that the whisper I heard in the void was my grandmother, speaking to me from beyond death, reminding me to keep fighting. I believe that love is stronger than any darkness. I believe that the bonds we form in this life continue long after our bodies are gone. And I believe that wherever my grandmother is now, she is still watching, still proud of her sunshine, still whispering words of hope whenever I need them. This is my story, the story of a tear that saved a life, the story of a whisper that conquered death, the story of a miracle that changed everything I thought I knew about faith, hope, and love. I am not special. I am not extraordinary. I am just a girl who was given a second chance and decided to make the most of it. And if I can come back from that void, so can you. Whatever you are facing right now, whatever darkness surrounds you, whatever hopelessness threatens to swallow you whole, I am here to tell you that it is not the end. It is not over. There is still hope. There is still time. There is still someone who believes in you. Listen for the whisper. It might come in the form of a song, a memory, a feeling, a stranger's kindness, a loved one's prayer. It might be so soft that you almost miss it, but it is there. I promise you it is there. And when you hear it, hold on to it with everything you have. Let it pull you back from the brink. Let it lead you into the light. Because miracles are waiting for you. And someone still believes in you. If this story touched your heart, if you felt something while hearing these words, I have a simple request. Type Amen in the comments if you believe in miracles. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And never, ever stop believing that the impossible is possible, because I am living proof that it is. May you find your whisper. May you see your tear. May you experience your miracle. And may you always remember that you are never, ever alone. Amen.